My name is Diana Feuerbach. I would like to welcome the audience of B3 Biennial and two really exciting artists who are joining us today for a talk. First up, we have Louise Botkai. She's joining us from Brazil. Hello, Louise.
Hello.
And we have Ken Ronaldo joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Hello, Ken.
Hello.
Let me briefly introduce those two artists. Ken Ronaldo is an internationally recognized artist for robotic art installations, 3D animations, and bioart. He develops hybrid ecologies with animals, algorithms, plants, and bacterial cultures, and he promotes social, biological, and machine relationships focused on ecology. His works have been commissioned and shown in over 30 countries, earning him several awards and prizes. Louise Botkai, on the other hand, studied at the National Film School of France, called La Fémis in Paris. She has shot films in Haiti, Congo, Niger, Chad, Brazil, and Europe using her cell phone, video, Super 8, 16 or 35 millimeter film that she developed herself. Her works were shown at festivals such as Oberhausen, Feed de Marseille, Video Brasil, and many more. Her work, A Film for Iguana, whom we're going to talk about a little later, won a prize from the state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. Well, we have a big topic to discuss. The title of our talk is Art as Criticism of Society. When does it reach its limits, or are there any? And I was thinking that in order to maybe get a better grip on these rather difficult questions, I was going to pick out two works of art that are shown at the B3 Biennial. Ken Ronaldo's 3D animation, The Continuous War Train, and Luis Botkai's film Filme para Iguana. You can find both of them at the B3 Digital Showroom at art.b3biennale.com. Ken, could you please tell us a little bit about the Continuous War Train? How did this project come about, and what does it involve?
Well, the project began in a funny way, but I would say that primarily it began by the conflation of two situations. The first one is that I was looking at a Facebook page, and on this Facebook page, I saw a very slow moving train with hundreds of Humvees and military goods slowly rumbling through a Midwestern town. And I found this very sad because the town itself was depressed. There was garbage on the street. There was, in the background, there was a used clothing shop. And to me, the scene felt really emblematic of everything that we're experiencing in the United States, which is that we spend so much on the military. At the same time, we have this crazy madman president, but he's just part of a long series of presidents that support the US's obsession with military power, which really is a central part of our economy. And the dominance of our military industrial complexes, and especially our violent entertainment film industries, are really used to sell and support the recruitment of young boys and girls to believing that violence is a solution to political disagreements. So really the work starts out kind of innocently with a colorful train pulling conventional weapons, along with new robotic space arms. And as they move through the town, you start to hear that the screeching turns into women screaming, to machine guns, to babies crying, as the never ending train continues to pull these advanced weapons. And all is in the interest of, what our politicians call defense and security. And, to just sum it up, really the war train itself is interspersed with actual footage of how companies sell their military goods to the American public. But what happens is it also shows you how film and contemporary film uses superheroes to sell us on the idea that violence is somehow a solution to political disagreements. So, in a way, the train lulls you into believing that there's peace here in this peaceful town. But indeed, it is not peaceful. Around the world, wars are happening all the time. And as we could see as well with Louise's work, wars are also happening in the rainforest. So your questions, Diana, were very important, and I'm very excited that you were able to capture that both of these works are really about peace.
Mhm. Well, yes, then let's move on to Louisa. Ken already touched on this. Your film is radically different from Ken's work that we just briefly discussed. Yet, to me, yes, it touches upon the same universal truth. If I may, in one phrase, to me, it's life is precious and we need peace to preserve it. That's my take on it. And so when we start watching Luisa's films in Filme para Iguana, she takes us to the Brazilian rainforest, and the scenes we get to watch there with indigenous people are so peaceful that one you might even think that you're in paradise or something. Luisa, maybe you could tell us how did you find Iguana and her family? How did you meet them? Where exactly do they live? And who are they?
Mhm. So I will try to speak in English, but I think I'm gonna change for French very very soon. Um,
Slowly, slowly,
so
despacio.
they are from the top north of Brazil, in the frontier with Venezuela.
Mm-hmm,
They are from Yanomami community,
mm-hmm.
and it's very important to say they are very far from a kind of paradise. Uh, they 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 build for them a space, um, and they want to be far from the white men, the white people. They many times ago um, they understood. Je vais parler en français, c'est mieux.
Okay, she wants to switch to French now. Okay.
Alors, voilà, c'est une population qui a compris depuis très très tôt, depuis après le contact avec l'homme, que plus ils sont éloignés de l'homme blanc et de la, on va dire, de la civilisation, mieux ils se portent.
Okay.
Ils ont
So
été,
basically, let me translate in between. They found out that the farther away they move from the white man, the better it seems to be for them.
Mhm. Le contact avec le premier contact a été dévastateur. Les maladies de l'homme blanc et les assassinats qui ont été perpétués pendant plusieurs années ont détruit presque la moitié de la population. Dans les années 90, il y a un leader qui s'appelle Oppenhauer, c'est celui qui parle à la fin de mon film, Il
Mhm.
a été, il a fait un grand mouvement. Il a utilisé aussi, on va dire, l'appui de l'ONU et pour faire pression sur le gouvernement brésilien. Et ils ont réussi à avoir le plus grand territoire indigène du Brésil. Les
Okay.
Yanomami vivent.
Mhm. Sorry. So basically, the population of the Yanomami had been nearly cut in half by diseases of the white people and also murders, assassinations. And then in the 1980s, there was a gentleman, I didn't catch his name right now because the connection was poor, who, uh, he's the one who speaks at the end of the film, Un Film para Iguana. He formed a movement of those indigenous people, and he managed to put some pressure on the Brazilian government. And they were given, or they were sort of guaranteed, a very large territory in the Amazon rainforest, as far as I understand, for them to live there and stay there and keep to themselves.
Euh, donc, ces gens, ils choisissent de vivre loin, le plus loin possible de l'homme blanc et ils vivent pratiquement en dehors du monde du capital. Ils n'utilisent pas d'argent, l'argent ne circule pas.
Uh-huh.
Et voilà, les femmes n'utilisent pas d'habits. Ils ont pas changé leur coutume après la rencontre avec l'homme blanc. Et ils se préservent beaucoup. Ils sont très intelligents dans ce sens. Et ils ont une attitude et une action politique très forte en leur self-défense.
Okay. So these the people, the Yanomami, and you can see that in the film at firsthand. They live outside pretty much all of the time. They don't use money. They didn't change their traditional clothing after their encounter with the white men, which means that they're nude. You know, they walk around. To our eyes, it's almost entirely naked, and they have managed to put up some very strong political action. But Louisa, let me ask you specifically: why, and how did you pick Iguana as the main protagonist? Why did you name the film after her?
D'accord. Alors, avant de répondre à ta question, je vais revenir à deux choses qui ont déjà été dites. Donc, c'est très important de ponctuer ce que Ken a dit. Il y a une guerre dans la forêt, et cette guerre, elle n'est pas de maintenant, même si maintenant, c'est beaucoup plus dur et beaucoup plus intense, puisque le gouvernement au Brésil euh, veut attaquer cette guerre et veut les minerais et veut faire la minération dans cette terre Yanomami.
Oh, so there is
Et
actually
aj-
there, there's a war going on even as we speak, which basically saying that the current Brazilian government wants to take away the land from the Yanomami because they want to do mining there. Did I get that correct? Mining?
yes.
Okay, so it's not about cutting down the forest for the wood. It's actually about
Both, both,
okay.
both.
All right.
And um, and now we have a worse. It's worse. It's the problem. It's bigger because we have the COVID coming inside on the
Uh-huh.
forest. L'année dernière, il y a eu un retour du malaria. Donc,
Mm-hmm.
les populations de la forêt, quand ils sont atteints par la malaria, qui est une maladie des Blancs, ils sont très fragiles et le Covid est pratiquement létal. Donc, ces gens sont en danger de très, très grave en ce moment.
Okay, those the people right now in very grave danger because of COVID-19. It's pretty much mortal to them, Louisa was saying. So, because their immune system, yeah, cannot properly respond to that. And also last year, there was a research of malaria. which also hit them pretty hard.
Et je suis arrivée la première fois dans cette communauté en 2017, avec une équipe de télévision très classique pour faire un documentaire qui est passé à la télévision. Et moi, je travaille aussi comme camera woman, comme DOP.
Uh-huh.
Et à ce
Yes.
moment-là, j'ai passé 15 jours avec eux, mais dans une situation très, très séparée, où il y avait l'équipe d'un côté qui mangeait séparément que la communauté et qui... Et, enfin, c'était une situation un peu difficile parce qu'on est là comme hommes blancs dans une société qui ne veut pas les hommes blancs et on est là pour les filmer. Et, et enfin, j'ai eu un désir de revenir et je suis devenue proche d'un des chefs parce qu'il n'y a pas beaucoup, il n'y a pas un seul chef, mais c'est horizontal la façon communautique. Mais David Oppenauer, qui est un grand personnage très important ici au Brésil, un grand activiste aussi pour les Indiens, est devenu un ami. Et comme ça, j'ai pu revenir un an plus tard toute seule
Uh-huh.
pour faire
So
ce
that
film.
okay. So that was in. Did you say 2007 or 2017? 2007 or
17,
2017? Okay.
17.
Yeah, 17. Thank you. In 2017, Louisa went to this rainforest for the first time with a television camera team to shoot a documentary. And she was a camera woman. And the team had to eat separately from the tribe, and there wasn't much mingling. And it was also a bit of a weird feeling because basically, as white people, they were not wanted there by the locals. But Louisa managed to strike up a friendship with one of the community leaders. So she got to go back the following year by herself. Good. So let me ask you, Louisa, did you realize? I mean, you already said and Ken confirmed it, and you reconfirmed it that those scenes that seem so peaceful to the viewers that they're actually they might be a bit misleading because really there are some grave issues. But did you realize while you were shooting, for example, the scene in the river when everybody goes bathing in the river, the mothers and their children and their babies, that it might seem like paradise to an outside audience. Were you aware of that?
Est-ce que tu peux faire la question 7?
Non.
Okay. Est-ce que quand tu étais là dans la forêt et tu étais filmant et Wana et sa famille et tout ça, les enfants, les femmes se baignant dans la rivière, c'est tellement, il y a tellement de paix et c'est trop beau et ça peut paraître réellement comme un paradis pour l'audience qui ne savent plus. Est-ce que tu te suis rendu compte de ça? Que tu tournais des images de paradis? Ouais.
Alors, moi, je pense que c'est complexe en termes de paradis. Par toutes ces questions d'attaque et de constamment devoir se défendre contre des maladies invisibles, des virus et des attaques. Parce que c'est important de dire, je n'ai pas encore dit, mais ces terres sont envahies en ce moment depuis que Bolsonaro a été élu par 20 000 comment tu parles, les gens qui vont chercher les mines, l'or et autres choses. Et ils ramènent des maladies, ils ramènent la violence, la prostitution. Donc, c'est une population qui vit constamment en guerre, loin de l'image du paradis. Mais je peux continuer?
Yeah.
D'un autre
Okay.
côté,
Mhm.
D'un autre côté, je comprends et c'est beau que tu ressentes ça parce que il y a vraiment un soin de cette population de se maintenir en contact avec ce qui est la vie pour eux, ce qui est important, le temps, le silence interne, la relation avec la nature. C'est comme si on a l'impression que nous, on a oublié tout ça, mais eux, ils n'ont pas oublié. Donc, ils maintiennent ça avec tout leur effort. Et nous, hommes blancs, quand on voit ça, on se dit, mais ils sont au paradis. Mais en fait, voilà, c'est comme si peut-être une idée on vit, on a tous ce paradis-là, mais on s'est perdu.
Okay. Yeah, let me try and get that. So basically, these people are under constant threat, and they're especially because of the mining companies these days. The people who work for the mining companies, they bring maladies there, diseases, and so really there can't be any talk of paradise when you watch the film. But Luisa understands, and it made her even a little happy that that was my response that I felt to those images. And she explained that nature is very important to the people there, Juana and her tribe, and that we as white people may have forgotten or we may have cut our link to nature, but they have not forgotten. So let me switch back to Ken for a little bit. Ken, the images in your work, the continuous war train, they're of a different sort, obviously. And especially the very last scene, which is a real document from a news footage, right? We see a boy from Aleppo who is gravely hurt in a bombing. I would like to ask you, how did you muster up the courage to actually show this real war footage in your piece? Did it take courage? And if so, how did you find it?
Most violent imagery. And I'm concerned that in seeing these images, we think of these images often in drama as innocent or as not impacting the viewer.
Mhm.
But in fact, I think that they do. I think that they get us used to seeing these images. This young boy who clearly is an innocent young boy, and of course, so many of these families in the peaceful village of Aleppo before it was bombed by these Russian planes. Um, they're just innocent bystanders to basically almost like a proxy war between Russia and the United States in Syria. But, of course, the original war itself was started because of issues of global warming. And global warming killed off a lot of the crops. For me, this also relates very much to Luis's work as well, because it's all about eating and food and access to resources like land. The white people in Brazil or the multinational corporations that would like the soil of the Brazilian rainforest to grow their meats or to harvest their wood. For
For
me, this
Europe,
is just, yeah, for Europe, but this is just part of for me, a colonialist way of thinking about the world. And I think the human species is perhaps one of the most destructive beings on the planet. And even in this film that Luis shows, it's very interesting to me that even though the Yanomami appear to be in peace with their environment, there's a really beautiful scene where the young boy and a young girl walk out of the woods with an animal with a noose around its neck. And to me, this really speaks to really the issue of how humans are treating the world, where everything is food for us, everything is resources for us. And we do this often without any feelings. Because hunger is there, but there's perhaps other ways of surviving. And maybe the Yanomami see this as a means of survival, and clearly it is, and one that they've been able to live as a hunter gatherer subsistence society for a long time. But for me, these films are very much related in terms of the kind of global economic system of extractivism, where everybody is extracting something from some other place. And our military is interested in, precious metals from China, and we're interested in also the soil of the Brazilian rainforest because this allows us to create oil. And oil is then used to eat. But I think for me, what's so important about both of these films is they're confrontational. They show the world what's in fact happening to these beautiful tribes, but also what's happening to the beautiful tribes of the remainder of the world's having to deal with violence that's propagated by business needs in the case of military industrial complexes.
Well, what sort of responses have you been getting on the continuous war train at home in the United States? What kind of reactions, and also what do you ideally hope to achieve with your art? And do you succeed, or what's realistic to expect and what's not?
Well, I think that as a professor or as an academic in a fairly liberal, democratic leaning town, I think that people are quite receptive to the film. The film has gotten out, somewhat internationally, even though I've not really worked on promoting the film. It's just somehow discovered on the web, which of course I'm happy about. Most recently, it was aired in Korea, for example, and then also in a town in Italy and also in Lisbon, Portugal, as part of a festival. And I think that it helps people to understand the relationship between movie making and film and the kind of narratives that we sell to our children. This kind of like hyper toxic masculinity that I see so often in the American culture, but also I see the same thing in certain parts of the German culture. I see the same thing in Bolnasario in Brazil. It's this toxic masculinity about conflating the idea of strength and war with power. But somebody is usually on the wrong side of the gun. And I find this, very, very sad.
Mhm. Okay, and can you had a thank you very much for this talk. Can you tell us what your question to Louise is? I had asked you to prepare a question for Louise. Do you have it ready?
I do, yeah. Um, Luisa, I was very struck with the beauty of your films, and your camera work, of course, is really, really stunning. And I thank you for these important works of art. All four of them that you've presented were very compelling. My question to you was toward the end of the film, I noticed that some of the elders in the film held a cell phone, and they were filming you, I believe. And so I have to admit, I was kind of struck with that, but I was also struck with the scene where the young woman is playing a kind of an ancient radio and listening to sound. And I suppose, in a way, my question is somewhat about the relationship of technology for the Yanomami. Do you believe that, given the power of your film to tell a truth about the forest and the deforestation, do you believe that the Yanomami will be able to use the power of technology, such as cell phones, as you've used in your own practice, to get their message out there, to be seen by the world, to understand, help others to understand what's happening to this important indigenous tribe?
Je vais essayer de répondre rapidement. Parfois, les gens sont choqués de voir cette image et c'est un peu bête parce que la technologie, elle est là et le monde ne s'arrête pas. Mais on va. Moi j'ai commencé en 2010 à donner des cours dans un projet qui emmène la caméra et le cinéma et le montage dans des tribus indigènes au Brésil, qui s'appelle Video nas Aldeias. Et au début, euh, les Yanomami ne voulaient pas, surtout le chef, le leader ne voulait pas. euh, c'est ça. Eux, ils essayent de faire le moins de contact possible avec les Blancs. Mais aujourd'hui, en 2020, ils comprennent que c'est important qu'ils aient qu'ils aient les outils et qu'ils savent utiliser, par exemple, le audiovisuel pour raconter leurs propres histoires et faire et les dénonces, pour essayer de se protéger, de montrer la situation catastrophique avec les garimpeiros. Como é que é garimpeiros em inglês? The miners, for example.
Okay. Okay, so let me just cut in briefly. A lot of people are surprised, as you were, Ken, when at the end of the film they see Yanomami holding up cell phones. But of course, the technology is there. And Louise, I couldn't hear really well the quality of the broadcast wasn't so great. But what I understood is that now by 2020, they have also put aside some of their doubts and they're more willing to use the technology that is there to get their message out, as you were saying, because they realize that it's important to document what's going on with the mining companies and so forth. So yes, so Louisa, they also film, right? They film and they record, and maybe
No,
they record testimonies or they send pictures out.
yes, one of them made a very beautiful film feature. I can send to you, Ken, and they some of them made some des formations audiovisuelles et ils produisent des films. Il y en a pas beaucoup, mais il y en a quelques-uns et il y a des super films. Il y a une perle que j'aimerais bien t'envoyer après un link. Et si quelqu'un qui écoute est intéressé, je peux envoyer aussi parce que c'est sur YouTube.
Okay, so yes, there are people who actually even make their own films, and one of them has a film theater as well. And Louisa wants to send you the link later on, and she would like to share this information, maybe with all of us. Maybe we'll figure out a way to have a postscript to this talk on our B3 webpage. Uh, time
That's
is uh, time is not quite running out, but it's moving along. Louisa, do you have a question that you would like to ask Ken in return?
Yes, yes, it's a very simple and it's not simple question. I saw your work and I like it very much. And I would like to ask you what this pandemic moment made on your maybe what are you doing now starting to think or to think about making something around this moment so different and so important to
so.
you.
What am I working? What am I working on now?
If you
Is
have something yet relate to this pandemic moment and all this capitalism who make a little crack.
Yeah, I am working on this. As you know, we're in the middle of an election with a very crazy man in the White House, and it's very clear to us that the um, in this cataclysmic moment of our election, we're trying to understand and express a democracy, but a lot of people are working against this democracy. So currently, I'm working on a series of new signs that are sort of road signs, warning signs to the public about what's happening currently in our world and in our future. And some of them have to do with issues of environment. So here's one road sign that I've just completed,
Can
and
you
it's a
hold it up?
kind of
Global
yeah,
warming ahead. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
Wait, I want to take a picture. Come back. Okay.
yeah. And
Thank you.
here's another one.
Eating is
Mhm.
an inherent violent act. Oh, okay. Mhm.
Yeah, in a way, and I to me this is where maybe some of our works really do relate because it is about resources and food and survival, and everything seems to be colonizing everything else, including the COVID-19 virus, which has been colonizing us, but also colonizing the indigenous peoples in Brazil. So this is, I hope that that answers your question. I'm not sure if it does.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
Larissa, what are you currently working on? Would you like to share with us any current projects or recently
Me?
completed?
Ah, I am editing a long project, maybe almost 2 years now, and
Oh,
yeah, it's a new film I made in the universe of the Afro religion in Brazil.
oh.
Uh, I have one short looping in the Bienal named Pena Verde. Como é que é Pena
Yeah, yeah,
Verde?
yeah. The dance. The dance.
This is part of this project, yeah, this
Yeah,
bigger
it's
project.
intriguing. Yes, it's well, we see a man dancing, and we have people around gathered in a room, and everybody's doing and clapping, and you feel
Yeah, this
that
is
wow, something's going on.
very interesting about the syncretism in Brazil because it's Yoruba Afro-Brazilian religion who received the spirits of the indigenous people.
Mhm.
So they work together and they are dividem, né? E partage, they share the same place, and this syncretism is very interesting because the place where I was filming this, the indigenous people are killed, devastated. They not existing anymore, but in the religion, the people receive the spirits in a trance. They are in in trance.
Mhm. Okay. Well, Luis, we look forward to that film. Maybe it could be shown at the next B3 biennial. And I just like to say that under normal circumstances, we probably all would have met up in Frankfurt and had a great time together. But unfortunately, that wasn't possible. So, but I think we did the best that we could do. And thank you so much for this wonderful talk. Time is running out. We need to wrap it up. I'm wishing you all the best, and I would like to encourage the B3 audience really to go online and watch the works of Ken Ronaldo from the United States and Luisa Botkai from Brazil. Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe we could say, maybe we could have a little bye bye internationally. I mean, bye bye in English, right? What do you say in Portuguese in Brazil? A ciao.
Ciao.
Oh, that's
This is
Italian.
international.
Ronaldo, I mean, you could do that, right? You could do a ciao. No problem.
Ciao.
Bye
Oh,
bye.
baby.
Live long and prosper.
Nice